Greetings from my home to yours. When I was growing up Unitarian Universalist, people would often ask where I went to church. And if they'd heard of Unitarian Universalism, they would say something along these lines. Right, I've heard of you. You're that place where you can believe whatever you want. And I knew in my bones that that was not true, that that was not what it meant to be a creedless faith. Over time, I learned to offer something along these lines as an answer. Actually, that's not true. We can't believe whatever we want because we are called to test our beliefs against the collective wisdom of our humanity and the world religions and against our own experience. And if I could believe whatever I wanted, I would believe that people always choose the kindest action before them, that they always choose kindness over anything else. And yet if I test that belief out against my experience, it doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up against the experience of my family or friends or what I see in the headlines of the morning newspaper. And so my faith calls me to go back to the drawing board, to look at my experience, to look at the collected wisdom, and to ask myself, what is it that I can believe? What is it that I must believe based on what I know and the questions that I am living into that I do not yet know the answers to? I do believe that there are things that we can do to cultivate kindness. I do believe that there are things we can do as an individual and as a community that can help to tip the balance towards kindness. That question, that process of discernment, of believing what we must, is what I think of when we talk about Unitarian Universalism as a living tradition. That dialogue between wisdom and experience is ongoing throughout our lives. My childhood minister, Dick Gilbert, used to talk about each of us carrying around our own version of a Bible that he would call a loose leaf Bible. This book would have our sacred texts, sacred stories, the core values that guide us day in and day out. And yet there are moments in our lives when something happens, when an experience invites us to go back to a text and to add some insight, to make an edit, to deepen our understanding of it in new ways. Perhaps there are even experiences that invite us to add a new text or a new story into that loose leaf Bible, or to remove a page when it is no longer useful or what we thought it once was. This living tradition of which we are a part guides us on our journey wherever we are. At a meeting of the teaching associates at Unity, we were talking about the principles of our faith this past weekend and how you can't take them alone or independent of one another. The inherent worth and dignity of every person is meaningful, but its true meaning is in dialogue with the other principles. What does it mean to uphold the inherent worth and dignity of every person in the context of the interdependent web of which we are a part? That dialogue between wisdom and experience, of our values and what they mean for one another, invites us to continue to grow our souls, to continue to grow our faith in ever new ways. And as I think about the sources of wisdom and change and transformation that are moving in our lives right now, I think about the work that is being done in Unitarian Universalism to add an eighth principle, the Eighth Principle Project, which would state, we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. What might the inherent worth and dignity of every person mean in relationship to our eighth principle? What might the interdependent web of all existence mean in dialogue with this eighth principle? What might the free and responsible search for truth and meaning mean in dialogue with this eighth principle? Our faith is not about believing whatever we want. It is about believing what we must, what we can believe based on what we know, and based on what we are living into and still yearning to understand. That is both an individual journey and a collective journey that can lead us toward wholeness and lead us to a richer resources of wisdom and experience that can make our world a more just and more fair place. May it be so.